So let's talk about style. I know that a lot of artists, when they're first starting out, get hooked on this idea of developing a style, making something unique to the point where people will recognize it and love your art for the style that you make it in. I know that when I first started out, I was super obsessed with this idea of having my own style. And when I felt like I wasn't really developing one or wasn't making something that was recognizable, it made me struggle with actually enjoying the art process and enjoying what I was making. So I wanted to talk about style and ways that you can kind of speed up this process so that it can help some of you guys that are trying to find a style. So, when I was struggling with this, I would look up advice online and watch some YouTube videos on the topic of style. And a lot of them would talk about how you already have a style or you can't really look for a style because it's something that will develop as you practice and as you learn the basics, because it's the way that your brain analyzes things, your brain actually goes about painting things, and it's something that's inherent towards you as an individual. But that didn't really help me because I was thinking that I don't have a style and that I don't like the style that maybe I do have. Now, I do agree with some of these things, like that your style is going to be unique to you, the way that you paint is going to be unique to you, even if you're trying to replicate another style. There will be hints that it was you painting it versus another artist. But if you were like me, you want to find a way to work towards a new style, and hopefully today I will be able to give you guys some ways to do that. So, I have an exercise that was based on some suggestions I got from my Instagram followers, and it's a way of analyzing what style that you currently have and creating a style goal. After all, you can't really move towards something unless you have a goal to move towards. So, this exercise is meant to help you make that goal and give you a way to start moving towards it. So, what I did is I opened up any old text editor that can be on your phone, that can be on your computer, anywhere that is natural for you to write things down. And what I did is I analyzed the work that I've been doing lately and found any patterns that were showing up throughout the pieces that I've made. Anything that I was drawn towards using a lot, anything that showed up multiple times would be something that I would write down. So, for example, I wrote down that I like using gradients lately. I also like using hard edges with some soft textures between the hard edges. I like using very defined shapes for the facial structures of the animals that I paint. And I like using dramatic lighting or particles to make things look more magical. So you keep doing this until you have a decent sized list of things that have been repeating in your art. And as you're writing this list, make sure that you write down things that you might not like as much. So things that you've noticed are mistakes that you've made. And you're going to want to go through your list and analyze whether it's something that you want to keep doing or if it's something that you don't want to include in the new style that you're developing. As you go through your list and determine whether that's something you want to keep or you don't want to, put little X marks or cross the lines out for the things that you don't want to include anymore. This is going to be important later on when you're using it as a reference point for where your style is going. Alright, now you should have a cleaner list of where your style is currently at and what you want to remove from it or update from it. The next step is to find things to add to your style. So a good place to start with this is looking at your favorite artists, looking at paintings that you've saved on social media, anything that inspires you to make you want to improve your art style, and analyze those paintings and look for the elements that you want to add into yours. As you're going through other people's paintings or pictures, be careful to not write too many things from one artist. I recommend using just one or two things that you like from one person so that you're not just trying to replicate someone else's style. You're trying to look at all of the things that you love and trying to make a style based on that. And you don't even have to really look at visual art necessarily. You can look at music, You can look at the relationships and memories that you have. Anything that inspires you to make art is something that you can reference when you're making your art style list. Just to give you guys an example of how detail oriented this list can be, one thing that I actually put on my list is a specific way of drawing a shadow for eyes. So I liked this one painting that had maybe 50% of the eye in shadow, and I thought that way of painting it was pretty cool. So I wanted to add this to my list, at least to reference as something that I was interested in. As you're adding things from other artists and things that inspire you, make sure you mark those as things that you want to add to your style by adding like a star next to it, some kind of marker so you can reference it. Once you've finished all of that, you now have a list of what you want your new style to be. So anytime that you start a new painting, you can refer to this list and remind yourself what style techniques you want to practice or take out. So what I'll do is I'll look at the list and I'll select one or two things that I want to work on with my new painting. An example would be with the eyeshadow technique that I talked about. I'll choose that as the thing that I want to test out in this new painting. And then once I'm done with it, I can analyze it because that's the one thing that I've changed. I can see if that's actually something that I enjoy adding into my style, or if it's something that I just liked in that one painting that I was inspired by and I don't actually want it to be in my style. If you find your list is too long to focus on, try getting rid of the extras and more detailed points in your list so that you can focus in on the core elements that would make you happy with your style. So I have a list of topics and questions that will help you analyze your current style and where you want to take it. Think about the ideal style that you would want when you answer these questions and write down anything into your list that you really want to focus on or you're interested in exploring. And you might not even have an answer to some of these questions, but that's something that you can look into as you work on your style, and you can always update your list as you keep moving forward. The first topic is texture, because I feel like that is a huge component in what your style ends up looking like. Do you like something that looks more smooth and blended, or something that has texture all around? Where do you want to add texture? Is it along the edges of shadows? Is it in the pattern of the fur? Is it in the silhouette of the character that you're painting? What kind of texture do you like? A noise or spotted type texture, or something that looks more like brushstrokes? I suggest watching some YouTube videos of artists painting and see what types of brushes that they use to make the textures that you like in paintings. I find that when I change the brush, it can completely change the feeling of the texture in the painting. So I suggest that you guys test out some brushes and find the ones that feel the best for you. Then we have line art. Do you want to keep the line art in your final work, or do you want your work to be lineless? Do you want to do some kind of mix of the two? If you don't keep the line art, how does it still affect your final piece? How can you improve your process so the line art helps you when you're painting and gives you cues for what you plan to paint? You want the line art to work for you in your process. You want it to help you rather than make it a struggle to move from line art to a lineless painting. So take a look at your process and make sure that the line art is helping you and not making it harder. If you keep the line art, then what kind of textures do you want the lines to have? What line weight do you like? Super thin lines, variable widths, thick bold lines? Where do you want the widths to change in your line art? Take a look at how some artists bring attention to specific areas of their drawings with the line weight that they use. The next thing you can look at is form or shape language. When you paint, do you want to use realistic proportions and shapes, or do you want to exaggerate them? If you do want to exaggerate, then how much? What shapes do you like for the forms, and what kind of feeling do you want the shapes to bring? Think about how shapes can add emotion to paintings. So sometimes when you use round circular shapes, that adds more of a cute factor to your paintings, while jagged edges can make things look evil or menacing. make sure you analyze why you like the specific shapes that you do. Also think about poses. Do you like specific angles for portraits? What about for full body paintings? How do artists make their subjects look more dynamic? How do they use perspective to make the poses look more dramatic? Do you want poses that look more cute or more cool? Poses can affect the painting a lot and your style a lot because it often determines what kind of emotion is coming from that piece. Lighting is also a super important part of style. You can choose not to even use lighting and go for a more flat look. If you do use lighting, what colors would you want the lights to be? You can create a very specific aesthetic by repeating the same kinds of colors in the lights or techniques of lighting your pieces. So I encourage you guys to do a lot of testing in this specific area and figure out how realistic or stylized you want to go with the lighting. Speaking of realism, how much of your art do you want to have based on reality? What pieces of it do you want to exaggerate or base entirely on what's in real life? Keep in mind that even if you're aiming towards something that's completely stylized, that doesn't mean that you can't base anything off of reality. You can use references in your art for any kind of style, and I really encourage you guys to do so because it can help improve your proportions and your skill level for any type of style. And the last one I'm going to mention is colors. What colors do you love? This can be inspired by your favorite color just in general, pictures that you like on social media and aesthetics that people use there, paintings that you've seen, nature, clothing, anywhere you can find color is something that you can be inspired by for this topic. You can also look at how light interacts with color. You can look at what colors go well together and what kinds of patterns you can create with color. And then you can also look at colors that you've never tried to paint with. You can try out something new that you wouldn't think you would like, but maybe you end up falling in love with it. Okay, I think that's enough topics and questions for you guys to go through. Like I said before, you don't have to have answers to all of these questions. It's more of a prompt list to try and get you thinking about things that maybe you didn't consider when thinking about style. And hopefully it helps you create more of a direction that you want to take your style. So you're not just trying things randomly. You have a list that you refer to and you have something to aim towards. Some of the things on your list might be that you just want to get better at something, make something more realistic, for example. It's always good to go back to the basics and relearn something that you've already learned. I think I've taken a class for learning lighting and shading techniques and doing that on just like a simple sphere about 10 times or more. Every new teacher would approach it slightly differently, and that would help me bring some new insight into my style and the approach that I would take for my paintings. So I think it's really good to have a larger range of inspirations in terms of like artists that you admire, paintings that you're inspired by, and people that you learn from, because one person might teach it in a way that just clicks for you where it never has before. You're never going to stop learning as you make art, and as you learn new things, your style is going to evolve. This happens to artists even who have been at it for years. You can still see how their style evolves as they learn new things, and it just improves as you keep going. This technique that I'm talking about in this video is here to help you find a style that you enjoy and that you're happy with. Hopefully, this way of thinking about style can help you redefine what you are aiming to improve on so that you're more focused on the core things that make your style yours. It will still take a while to find it, and you're going to have to put in the work and practice to really get to that style that you're happy with, but at least now you have a focus and a way of targeting what you want to add into your style. But remember through all of this that art should be fun. Take time to do random experiments just for the heck of it. And I recommend thinking to yourself, I am not going to post this on social media before you start painting. That way you get rid of any pressure that you feel like you have to make something that looks good. Those are often the times where you'll have a breakthrough and find something that you want to add to your style that you never would have expected. Anyways, thanks for listening to me talk about my thoughts on art style and what I've been trying out lately to try and improve it. Hopefully, it helps you out in your journey to finding an art style that you like too. If you know of any other techniques for improving your style and getting to a point where you're happy with it, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you want to see some more videos from me. Bye!